So, with the news about Chaos Avenger coming out really soon, I thought, you know what, let's have an in-depth look at what this class's skills and passives are actually going to be. If you're new around here, make sure you hit that subscribe button and, of course, leave the video with a like. So, this class, I'm almost certain, is going to be a top-tier soloer, and it is going to be a bit of a tank. Anyway, so let us have a look at what the auto attack is going to be like. So, pretty much, it's going to apply a stack of Chaos Fury, increasing your crit chance and crit damage by 6% for 12 seconds, and that stacks up to 15. Deals double damage to branded targets. An interesting point to note is in the second paragraph here, we've got this auto attack is your main source of damage on this class. So we'll see how that plays out as we go through the rest of the abilities. Make sure when you're going through your counting in your head, because I think they've actually numbered them all wrong. You'll see what I mean when we get there. Anyway, so Chaos Siphon. 50 mana, this one's going to set you back with an 8-second cooldown. It deals damage and corrupts your target's defenses, increasing the damage they take by 8% for 15 seconds, and it stacks to 5. One of your sources of healing on the class with an added defense debuff to really leave an impact on your opponent. So that is worth noting down that you do get a heal coming in there. Anyway, so let's talk about Flux. So the range on this is infinite, which is useful to know, and the mana cost again is going to be 50 with a cooldown of 8 seconds. So Chaos manifests itself dealing damage while randomly reducing your target's dodge, crit chance, hit chance, haste and outgoing damage. Each debuff reduces its respective stat by 30% for 15 seconds. It can't miss and always crits. So, this is basically how they're going to activate. You're going to have a 100% chance of reducing the enemy's evasion, 70% chance of reducing the crit chance, a 50% chance of reducing accuracy, a 40% chance of reducing damage, and then a 30% chance at reducing haste. So, let us move on to Chaos Bulwark. So, this one, again, mana cost is going to be 50 with an 8-second cooldown. Corrupt the raw energy around you and release a portion of it at your target, dealing damage while absorbing the remainder into your armor. Applies a stack of chaotic armor, reducing the damage you take by 30%, plus 5% for each additional stack, up to a total of 55%. And a stack of chaos regeneration, which heals you over time and stacks to 5. Both effects last 15 seconds. This is a very defensive based skill. Not only does this skill contain your second source of healing, it also contains a hefty defense buff to yourself. The bulk of the buff is applied on the skill's initial use, but you'll have to use it a few more times if you want to get the full effect. Next up we have Fury Unleashed, which is your final one, 35-second cooldown and yet another 50 mana cost. Deals damage and channels your Fury into your greatsword, increasing your outgoing damage by 50%, also increases your haste by 5%, plus an additional 5% for each stack of Ravaged your target has, up to a 45% total for 15 seconds. The longer your battle lasts, the stronger the haste buff on this skill becomes. A flat 50% increase to your outgoing damage isn't too bad to have either. So what you want to take on here is your haste buff. Will of course be really useful in reducing your cooldowns, and particularly on one that has a 35-second cooldown, so that'll be nice for adding extra stacks on. So let's talk about these here passives. So Brand of Chaos is our first one, and this starting at rank 1, all skills except Chaos Greatsword brand your target. Whenever your Chaos Greatsword strikes a branded target, the brand is consumed to deal double damage to them and apply Ravaged, which stacks to 8 and is used for Fury Unleashed. This is a passive that ties the class together. Each time you use a skill, your next auto attack will be empowered to deal double damage. The timing for doing this is quite forgiving, but there may be times where you'll have to decide on which skill to use next. So that really does tie up all the questions I had initially going through this, particularly with how we're going to be activating our stacks of Ravaged and branding a target. The next one here is strength increased by 50%, but I'm going to presume that is your intellect is reduced to 0, and then Death Defiant is your rank 10 passive, physical damage taken reduced by 35%, and endurance increased to 200%. Now going through this, something you're probably all thinking is, what on earth, how are we going to afford all that mana? Well, there's a very important point we need to make here. Mana regen. The Chaos Avenger regains 50 mana when they strike a target with Chaos Greatsword. So, that is why your auto attack is just so important in this class for once, which isn't something we normally see with these kind of things. Also worth mentioning, they're advising Lucky. Lucky is a pretty generic enhancement, seems to work with most classes. Sometimes though it's good to change it up for Wizard, but we'll do that when we worry about it when I go about testing this class next week when it launches for members, which brings us on very nicely to the conclusion. So we better read this out just because it has got an important point in here to make. The Chaos Avenger has harnessed a power that only one other has wielded before. With its powerful attacks, great survivability stats, and crippling debuffs, this class is able to take on the toughest of bosses. Again, underpinning that this is a soloing class. So unsheath your greatsword and show your opponents the true power of chaos. Bonus! Chaos Avenger member preview from October the 8th, which is of course next week, and you're going to be able to purchase and preview this class, which will most likely be a test version, and it will be in the featured gear shop. So my initial thoughts on this, without ever using it and actually seeing it and purely just reading that, this is going to be one tanky soloer. It may also have some quite good PvP effects. Could we call this, if Legion Remnant was a soloer, would this be what it'd be like? Who knows? I'm quite excited to see what it's like. Do I expect it to be better than Void High Lord? That is, well, only time's going to tell on that. I very much doubt it, but you never know. I mean, Drakov is a bit of a pain to defeat, but there again, you've got to defeat him 4 times in total. So we'll see. We'll see how it all plays out. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for watching. Leave the video a like and, of course, subscribe. And I'll be back next week to do the review.